Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you. It's 10 o'clock. My name is Tim Harris. It's time for 10 with Tim. I don't have any idea if you Facebook people are seeing this or not. I don't know. I hope you are. I'll check it later. I'm sorry, having Facebook issues. It's not my fault. I do the same thing I do every day, but sometimes these platforms change, update, whatever, and hopefully it's going to be straightened out. I hope so, but at any rate, good morning to you, YouTube folks, Spotify folks. Hopefully you're right in the pocket, and I love you so much. We are in Deuteronomy chapter 5 today. I'm pretty excited. We're starting the 10 Commandments, and we'll hit the 10 words today, and then we'll come back tomorrow, pick up in verse 22. We're in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 1 to 21, so let's jump right in. This is the beginning of kind of the second speech of Moses in the book of Deuteronomy. The official Deuteronomic introduction to this speech is probably found there at the end of chapter 4, verses 44 to 49. But Moses' own introduction and the speech itself, I would say, starts in chapter 5. This really is the heart of the book of Deuteronomy. The 10 Commandments are the essential guidelines for what it means to live in the presence of a holy God and in the presence of the covenant community. Again, some of the most, if not the most familiar biblical material that there is. Everybody, it would seem, knows the 10 Commandments. In world history, the 10 Commandments, this Decalogue, the 10 words, have been very influential in jurisprudence, in civilization, and the laws that govern all civilizations. This is just obviously the most basic rule known to man. And chapter 5 is where you'll find it. Deuteronomy chapter 5. Moses called all the people of Israel together. It says, "Listen carefully, Israel. Hear the decrees and regulations I'm giving you today, so that you may learn them and obey them." Once more, as we're learning in Deuteronomy, the section begins with this injunction, this exhortation to listen, to hear. Remember, God is a speaking God, and so the proper response is to listen to him, to listen to his voice. We call them the 10 Commandments. The Jews would call them the 10 words. Technically, Moses calls them the 10 words, and God spake all these words, is what the King James would say. The Decalogue means 10 words. So they're not so much commandments. They are commandments, but they are the 10 words, and that's the most ancient way of designating them. Verse 3 kind of strikes me again. We've talked about this before, but this amazing contemporaneity, contemporaneousness, which is the word. They're very contemporary. They are made contemporary. Notice here, what Moses says. At the mountain, the Lord spoke to you face to face from the heart of the fire. Did he though? Wasn't that really more our parents and grandparents? The people might say, but verse 2, the Lord our God made a covenant with us at Mount Sinai, with us. The Lord did not make this covenant with our ancestors. Didn't he though? No, the Lord did not make this covenant with our ancestors, but with all of you who are alive today. The Hebrew there is magnificent. It stacks up 7 words that literally means he made it with us, we, these ones here today, all of us living. It's like stacks up. And I'm not joking there. It's 7 words that stack up. That doesn't even make sense, but it's just Moses' way of saying with us, we, these ones here today, all of us living, these 7 words stacked up to emphasize the fact that this is a covenant with you, that the 10 Commandments are binding on you. It's not like some ancient rule and now they're out of date and you can take them or leave them or update them. No. This is not past. This is present. It's not them. It's us. It's not that. It's this. And it's just amazing. This is the hermeneutical key, the interpretive key in the book of Deuteronomy. Just this idea that you don't read these stories as something that happened to somebody else. This is your story. And these aren't rules, laws, words given to some ancient people of God. No, that's for us today. And in that sense, the 10 Commandments, the 10 words, really are set apart from everything else that follows. And you'll notice here, it's more technical than you would think. Here are the decrees and regulations I'm giving you. It's not just stacking up synonyms here. There is this distinction between the 10 words, the Decalogue, and the rest of the law, the decrees and regulations, so to speak. First off, notice that God spoke these words directly to the people. The 10 Commandments are unmediated. In other words, they don't come through Moses. God speaks to the people directly. I mean, that's what the story here. I stood as an intermediary between you and the Lord, for you were afraid of the fire, did not want to approach the mountain. He spoke to me, and I passed the words on to you, and this is what he said. Moses is the one, the lawgiver, so to speak, but these words go directly to the people. The other regulations, stipulations, the decrees, they come much more through Moses. So there is this distinction between the directness and the priority of the Decalogue, of the 10 Commandments. They really are set apart, and they really are different. They are so basic, so fundamental, so essential. And for that reason, while we have learned in some ways to recognize the way in which some of the Old Testament law couldn't possibly be binding on Christians today, the kosher laws, the dietary laws, the laws against mixing kinds of fabric, those sorts of things we recognize as being fulfilled in Christ and set aside for us. The 10 Commandments don't expire. You can't possibly say, well, yeah, but we could probably murder today. No. There is something eternal and timeless about these 10 words. And so let's break them down. Very practically and beautifully, they are in a certain arrangement. The first words pertain to, they govern our relationship to God. And then the last words, sort of govern our relationship with people. The bridge, the sort of, hinge point there is the Sabbath commandment. You must observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. The Sabbath is that hinge because it relates back to God and God's example of rest, but also it governs everything else we do in the world. So it sort of turns the corner. Before that commandment about the Sabbath, these regulations simply pertain to our relationship with God. You must not have any other God before me. You must not make an idol of any kind. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You see that? And so with that one, it turns and then begins to regulate our life here among others, our social life. A couple of other things. Notice that the commandments are mostly stated in a negative way, thou shalt not. But behind every thou shalt not is a positive value. In other words, you're to respect and honor God. Those first commandments are thou shalt nots, but they have to do with this priority of honoring God, respecting God, and keeping God in his proper place. After that, the thou shalt nots, again, they just reflect a fundamental value, a respect for life, a respect for family, for parents, a respect for marriage, a respect for property. You understand that? Respect for truth. And so the thou shalt nots all have this positive value that is underneath them. Also, all these 10 commandments is kind of interesting because so much of Scripture is directed to the people of God as a whole, as a corporate unity. But the 10 commandments are expressed very specifically in second person singular. It's you. Thou shalt not. It's you must not. You must do these things. It's personal. It's individual. It's not as a group we should work in these directions. This is, of course, the way we want to govern society, but it comes down to individual values, individual behaviors, and I think that's important. The other thing I would point out, two things. First off, none of us is capable of keeping all of these commandments all the time. I run across people sometimes. I don't need to go to church. I just live by the 10 commandments. I don't need Jesus. I just live by the 10 commandments. Well, if you knew the 10 commandments, you would know how much you need Jesus. Isn't that what Paul says? That the law is given to teach us sin? And so you trying to tell me you live by the 10 commandments? Let's just stop and talk about your lying mouth, or let's just stop and talk about the way you treat your mama. Let's just stop and talk about the way that you are in your marriage. And you know what I'm saying? Anybody who thinks I live by the 10 commandments, well, you try to, but you don't. And that, of course, is the point, which leads me to my last point. Is it not a plan of salvation? The 10 commandments is not a plan of salvation. You can't say, I don't need Jesus because I live by the 10 commandments. No, the 10 commandments, these 10 words, it's not a plan of salvation. These are God's revelation of the way in which he intends for us to live. But he knows full well that we can't live in a perfect fashion. That's why he sent Jesus. That's why we need salvation. But we also need a guideline here for what God expects from us and what life, among his people requires of us. And so for that reason, he gives the 10 words, the 10 commandments. We'll pick up right here tomorrow. We'll pick up again and we'll finish out chapter 5. We'll hit the 10 words a little more depth and then come back and finish out from verse 22 to the end of the chapter. Was it verse 33? So read ahead chapter 5 and I will pick up. We'll finish it up tomorrow. I love you guys so much. It's going to be a beautiful day, I think. So enjoy it. Give God glory in it and enjoy all the good things God has given you. I'll double check, make sure Facebook people got this at night. You'll get it later. I love you so much. I'll